Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We had a little mishap in the front of the show. I'm not sure what that is, but we are going to have a great show for you today. We are going to have a great show for you today. Let me tell you, first of all, what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about a letter that I got from one of the readers of my blog, and I decided to make a blog post out of it because I think it is very important that we do so. So I did that. It had to cover, as you see by the title, it had to cover something about white progressives feeling discriminated against inside of the Democratic Party, inside of what they're doing. And I think it's a very important subject to cover. A whole lot of people will kind of shy away from these kinds of things, and then what we get is that scab festering. I don't really believe in doing that sort of a thing, so what I intend to do is hit it head on. I got that email from the user, or not the user, from my reader, and I said to myself, you know what? We can't just let this go, because it wasn't the first time that I heard it. It wasn't, and I am pretty sure it won't be the last time that I hear it. Some of the folks on the left are not very sympathetic to the way I answered the questions, the way I answered her. But I tell you the truth of the matter is, for me, it's not about, when we're talking about these issues, it's not about whether somebody is justified in the feelings that they have, but it's more that they have these feelings. And I think if we started to think more along those lines, if we started to look at things in that direction, we would probably get a whole lot more done. Because a whole lot of folks have a tendency to believe that, well, you know, you don't really have the right to feel that way. You shouldn't really be feeling that way, the way things are going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I beg to differ. We are having a little, it seems to me like some of the network issues going up and down. I'm noticing we're getting some yellows every so often. So if you guys drop out every so often, note that I'm keeping my eye on what's going on. I hope that we can continue with the performance that we have. But anyhow, here's the deal. General Motors is closing down some fields, some factories, and they're laying off 15% of their employees. Isn't this something that we should be making a huge issue about? Isn't this something that's bear mentioning? We have to do something about that, right? I mean, if you think so, did Trump give these guys a huge tax break? Did Trump give these guys a break like no other? So what's going on? What exactly is going on? Well, I think Democrats have to learn to make hay out of this, because I tell you what, if it were the other way around, we know what would be happening, right? We pretty much know that they would be making a big, big, big issue out of this. I think it is time for Democrats to make an issue out of, wait a minute, Trump promised you that he was going to bring a lot of jobs and that his tax cut was going to increase and keep employment going. Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? I think we have to make an issue out of. I'm going to be getting in a program right now. I'm just wanting to get to a screen here to see how the performance look on the monitor here, because it's turning out that I'm seeing some yellows when we are doing this here. I'm seeing some yellows here and there. But anyhow, going back to the matter at hand, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to cover this subject in detail, and we're going to start right now. And here is the title of the show, and let me make sure I get that right. Is it a danger? Is it a danger that many white progressives now feel discriminated against? That is a question, right? And that's based on what I answer to the person as well. The continuation to that is, as someone who is easy to talk to, I am getting a whole lot of white progressives who believe they are being discriminated against within their own movement. Is it real? Is it something that needs to be covered? Is it something that should be of concern? Well, the truth of the matter is, yeah, if it's affecting people, whether they are right in their thinking or not, we have to be concerned about how folks are feeling if they feel that somehow, some way, some reason that they are in fact getting discriminated against. I mean, that goes without saying. We have to take those things seriously. Okay, so here's the text, or here's the subtext. There is an undercurrent within the progressive movement that I believe we need to handle before it metastasizes. It is difficult. It is a difficult subject that I decided to cover after receiving an email this morning from a white progressive woman who took the time to write to me about her feelings. As her feelings justified, or her feelings justified, is there some concerted effort that marginalizes white people in the progressive movement? This is an issue that I think we must address by the horns right away. With Donald Trump in office, a man who knows how to bring racial angst out of just about everybody, I think it is essential that we really, really cover this. So how I'm going to start the program is I'm going to start with the blog of the week, which is I'm going to tell you, or I'm going to read to you the email that she sent me, and then what I'm going to do is respond with the message, okay, that I sent to her. And I think it was an important message. Now, some people kind of gave me angst for the message that I sent her, and the reason they did that is they believe that a lot of folks simply don't understand what it is like to be in a movement. I take a second stance to that, and that is I believe that if there are problems in any movement, I want to hold it by the horns and take care of it right away. So, do you know what time it is? Okay, here it is. Response to a white progressive who thought my post discriminated against whites. And let me tell you what my post was about. Back in the early, or I think it was in the 90s, when there was welfare reform, and the Republican Congress and President Clinton came to an agreement. And what they did is they signed welfare reform. But what they did when they signed welfare reform is they had this big sign-in thing, right? And what they did is they put an overweight black woman on one side, an overweight black woman on the other side, and then signed the thing. And everybody's big smiles, and you have a whole score of white men behind there showing that image. So that image was a score of white men, the president, and a black woman representing welfare, and there we signed the Welfare Reform Act. I remember back then when I saw that picture, I went ballistic. And the reason I went ballistic then is I knew exactly what the connotation was in that picture. I knew exactly what they were trying to relay in that picture. But anyhow, so that was the whole point of the thing. And the reason I brought that, some people say, well, why bring up such an old thing? Well, I got a thing in the mail. I guess it was from FAIR, F-A-I-R-E. These people these are the watchdogs of the media. And they put that picture out there, and they started to talk about welfare, etc. And when I saw that picture, that visceral reaction came back again. So anyhow, she saw that, and this is what she replied. But anyhow, let me write. I get a lot of emails from my readers. I'm posting this email with my response because it's important. It's an important issue, and while I empathize with this white progressive, we need the converse more so just based on proportionality. Tell me what you think. And I'd love for you to give us a call at 646-716-5812. Again, that is 646-716-5812. I respect all my readers. I'm honored to have them read my blogs. I hope this white progressive reads the response in the context written, and I sent her the same thing that I blog. I sent her as the response to the web. So she's getting this. Here is the email I received, and this is what she said. Okay, I am a white, middle-aged, professional female progressive, and I am drained of campaign bucks, but just donated to SB's campaign in Mississippi. SB is a black ex-congressman, I think he worked for Clinton as well, and he's running for the Senate, and he stands a good chance of winning that because of who the person is that he's running against. Okay. But anyhow, so she says she's helping the campaign. I know you are not speaking to me personally. That's what she's telling me. I know you're not speaking to me personally when you speak about Clinton's subtle or blatant racism, but you cause me to be weary as I too fight the good fight against all forms of isms, which includes racism. You undermine my fight by continuing to attack Caucasians as I grow discouraged and also discriminated against. Racism goes both ways. I speak up for Black Lives Matter, for Women's March, for xenophobia against white nationalists, against Muslim bans, and desperate brown people trying desperately to find new hope in new country after traveling on foot for thousands of miles. I am fighting several hours per day, as well as work to pay for a roof over my head. A good word once in a while to some whites would be really appreciated for a few good folks like myself. I just spent several hours on the New York Times blog trying to teach people that a young black man in Massachusetts, where I originally come from, is not to be thrown away for good in a prison when there were no family strengths, no environmental strengths while growing up, and one incarceration after the other with no judicial reform put in place for him. I close my blog out and I get you blaming Clinton for something. I'm thinking, why aren't you attacking the obvious, Trump or Hyde-Smith, anyone from today that is outlandishly racist, and you happen to pull out Clinton? This fight for our lives is on all of us, and I would appreciate a word of encouragement for all races, including Caucasians. There is so much hatred right now. Why the hell would you be pulling out a 30-year-old photo of Clinton? I mean, we've got DeSantis in Florida for governor who blatantly stated we should be monkeying around with us. When Gillum won his Florida Democratic primary, you need to refocus now. That is what this woman tells me after she reads my blog on Clinton. First of all, I think she's taking it out of context because I'm a blogger that blogs several blogs a day. And if a subject comes up, I write about that subject. And if I write about that subject, I give it context. And that subject also had context relevant to today. And in fact, the fight that she is fighting, the good fight this woman is fighting, learning the context of what Clinton did back in the past, learning the context of what he did during the election or during the primary with his wife running, all of those things are important. And that is the reason I had the article. So like I told her, like I said in the beginning, empathy is required. But I'm not mad that this woman sent me this piece of mail. I'm not mad at all, because that is what we want. We want interaction. We want to make sure that we can actually people to interact and understand what is going on. And I'm happy. I am extraordinarily happy that she sent me that email, because one-way communication is terrible. I may be saying something, I don't know how it is received. If I don't know how it is received, I don't know how to temper what I'm saying to reach people. Because if I'm not reaching people, I am twiddling my fingers. I am not doing a good job. So for those of you who said, why even bother spending the amount of time and giving her the dignity of an answer, to them I say, that is my job. It is my job not to just preach to the choir for people who are going to see everything that I write and say, yes, I agree. My job is not for saying, oh, I'm happy with you because you agree with me. That's not my job. If we are to be successful, we have to go where it hurts. If we're to be successful, when people critique us, when people tell us things, we have to first look, we have to introspectively look at ourselves and then ask the question, did they have a point? And if they had a point, we go ahead and see what that is. If they are partially have a point, we also mitigate that. So here's my answer to her. And I want you to listen cleanly. I said the following. Dear XXX, the person, first of all, thank you kindly for engaging immediately because something I wrote felt like an indirect attack. If you just capture one or two of my posts, that is a possibility. On the Clinton post, I am not sure how that affects you as a good progressive white person. Before I go into a complete answer, let me state that I regard race as a social construct and that all people are harmed by what we have allowed racism to inflict on us all. While supremacy likely does not apply to you, and at the risk of infuriating many of my progressive brothers and sisters, it has little to do with race if you really check economic supremacy. But the evolution means understanding it as race-based, detrimental to economic justice movement. So what I'm trying to tell her there is, if we look at these issues solely through the racial eyes, we've missed the boat. Because racism, tool, that's why I call race is a social construct. Racism is a tool for these people to be supreme over not just people of color, but everybody else, including white folk. We are actually on the same team. And that is what I'm preaching here. That is what I'm trying to get out to people. We are on the same team. All of us. Republicans, Democrats, radicals, progressives, we're really all on the same team. They use issues to divide. Anyhow, people of color, because of sheer numbers, military and police control and other factors could not have improved the condition absent white allies. The fact that you wrote me the email, you wrote me as a white progressive with those thoughts should give all of us in the movement pause. That you feel that that way means we have a deep messaging problem. Easier is it for the white underclass than to be captured by the narrative of Trump and the right. And that is what we have to be careful of. The narrative, Trump and the right. You see, if I have a progressive woman, and look, this progressive white woman is doing a lot. You listen, you watch, you listen to the things that she did. To go onto a blog and have an entire string defending the black folk in the public justice system and how it has affected them. Look, I can talk to anybody's heart, right? But I mean, she's going through the motions, right? If assuming everything that she says in the email she sends me, she is doing the work of a good progressive, irrespective of race. In fact, she's doing a whole lot more than many others are doing. So I have to give this woman kudos for that. Now that she feels oppressed, I'm going to handle later on in the response. And it goes as follows. It looks like we're having, people may be dropping off because it looks like we're not having a good connection here. And I am not exactly sure why that is, but I am going to have to just hope for the best and hope that it continues to improve. Anyhow, so I continued with the blog that I gave to her, and I said, before, or rather, I was here where I said, Trump has more in common with black billionaire Bob Johnson than any of us, white, black, or other. People of color, because of sheer numbers, military and police control, and other factors, could not have improved the condition absent white allies. I think I went through that part already. So, I went through that part already. So let me continue. On my radio show, Politics Done Right, I use a form of this phrase, when we unite Appalachia, the ghettos, and the barrios, the plutocracy will then fear us, giving us the real opportunity to get the middle-class-centric policies we are owed. Here is the deal. Here is the deal. I stand by what I said about Bill Clinton and all that I've said about them. It is not that they are bad people, but they are not who they were. And by the way, I don't care about their hearts, just their policies and actions that affect the body politic and the middle class in particular. The deeds do not appear to anyone but them. Their deeds do not apply to anyone but them. White progressive warriors sometimes feel that they are attacked by people of color and other more radical white progressives for being white, even as they feel they are doing the right thing. Before I talk about that, I must take some time and speak as a black man as opposed to a race-less blogger. Whenever I blog, I try to blog in a race-less form, right? I've always, in fact, when I started with that, before my image was anywhere, I never did anything to make folks know I was a black blogger. I was always a blogger. And I wanted to establish that persona because usually if you go ahead and you start as a black anything, that's all they are always going to use you for. You're a black blogger, they want you to talk black issues. You're a black anything with reference to blacks is what they want. They don't look at you in a holistic manner. I can speak about any issue, on any race, on anything. So nobody wants to be relegated as some black blogger or some Latino blogger or something like that. So now, however, I wanted to address this woman in the email that I replied to her as a black man. And this is what I said. When I walk into most stores, I am a suspect. When I'm stopped by a police officer, even in my middle-class town, more often than not, I am treated like a potential suspect. When I go for service in many places, I'm treated as second fiddle. When I worked in corporate America, where some professionals got 1 or 2 interviews, I got 3 to 6. And I could go on and on and on in just about every aspect of my life. Is the daily overbearing existence people of color cope with all of the time quietly, even in 2018. Most just live life knowing that is what to expect. There is permanence, and it has an effect on most. Continuing with the letter I sent her. But I digress to you, my friend. I understand your discomfort from feeling a sense of discrimination here and there. In fact, my existence in this country forces me to empathize with you because I know what it feels like to do all the things right, but when race intercedes, one righteousness means little. And I can say that about many issues, right? You can be right. You can be doing all the right things, and it's not enough. It is not enough. White people have the privilege of having 2 options. When discomfort raises its head because what some white people do is projected onto you, it is easy to walk away and join the other side where the fallacy that those others are really not discriminated against or those others are the real problems are promoted. Or you can realize that we are all in it together and you cannot expect a thank you from everyone at all times for doing the right thing, for being good, for being the good white progressive person that is doing what has to be done irrespective. As a black man, I carry the silly and unfair burden of what white people and some people of color think about black men. I can jump up and down. I can sulk. I can complain, become the Uncle Tom to prove I am not the stereotypical, purposely that person inflicted on black men. Or I can simply lead by example with eyes focused on the ball. As a progressive white person doing great deeds that many times go thankless, know that the thank you is simply doing the right thing. And when other white people in your domain get that feeling of being discriminated against, let them know at times it is real, but until we all right this ship, keep doing the right thing. Change is painful at times. History will remember we did this together, if not the present. Please read in the positive context in which it was written. Thank you for what you are doing for the movement, but please keep it up. And in your engagement, please include addressing white spaces where discrimination is occurring in a manner we will never see because it does not occur within the purview of people of color. Yours truly, Egberto Willies. That was my message to her. What do you think? What do you think about, let's say, folks who believe they're discriminated against? What do you think is the issue? Do you think it's in their heads? You know, let me know. Telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Now, if I don't get a call, shortly what I want to do is, and I should have done that before, but I'd like to go ahead and bring up that piece that I did for on Bill Clinton, because a lot, some of the folks said, "Oh, that is old stuff." But unfortunately, in as much as it's an old picture, it's an old thing that has occurred. Here's the reality. Here's the sad reality. The sad reality is we are still living through this sort of a thing, and that is sad. That is sad because it need not be us going through this again. That is sad because I mean, as it turns out, we shouldn't have this at all. But anyhow, what do you think? Telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Let's see if I found the Clinton piece here. The Clinton piece, I named it "Why This Picture Made Me Lose Respect for Bill Clinton." And I read over the article again, and I'm trying to discern why it is that she believes this was somehow an impact on her, what she's doing. Like I said, based on what I've seen from her, she's a darn good, hard-working progressive. Now, yes, there are times that she may feel a little bit of pain because, again, look, this is not an easy task. This is not an easy business to be in. Being an activist is hard. And not only hard, but you have to have a thick skin. On the progressive side, it's a little bit harder because we preach a whole lot about things like make things easier for people or think about their feelings and all that sort of stuff. And the problem with that is sometimes that can be limiting, right? It's a lot of folks. What I was trying to explain to this woman is, look, there are certain people that are going to be rude to you. There are certain people that are going to, attack you. I mean, you'll probably run across articles like I write sometimes about racial issues. I try not to do that too often, but when I write about racial issues, inadvertently it always upsets somebody because when we're speaking in generalities, a lot of folks internalize that thinking we're talking about them specifically, which is generally not the case. we're looking at things many times in the aggregate. And when one looks at them in the aggregate, look at what I lived through as a black man. It's almost sometimes you feel like you're carrying the burden, because if somebody is in some particular issue, oh, please don't let it be somebody who looks like me, because you know the stereotype that you already have to live with. So those are the types of issues that we're talking about. Now about Bill Clinton, the piece that I wrote about Bill Clinton was actually titled, Why This Picture Made Me Lose Respect for Bill Clinton. And I started saying, it always bugged me hearing about Bill Clinton being America's first black president, even though we all understood what it meant. That the thing is, Clinton always used black people as a tool to achieve an outcome. And that is the message that I was trying to get across. Bill Clinton using black folk as a tool to get its outcome. I usually leave this alone, but the picture just showed up in the box and in fear, and it made my blood boil. And I didn't put the picture on, and I wonder if I still have that in the directory. What I want to try to do here is see if somehow I can bring up that picture, because that anybody who sees that picture, and old school, new school, the first thing they think of is, my God, is he real? Did he really? Is that what that sign-in, that day of sign-in looked like? And it looks like I do not have that picture in my directory. I wish I did, because that would have given some context to what I'm talking about, but that's okay. You can look at it at the blog. The blog has a picture in it. But anyhow, so I continue. I preach that race is a social construct used by the few to control the many. It is a rather inept and outdated concept, though in the real world it must be a part of our discourse till we extricate the pathology. I have discussed enough of this at length. It is one reason anyone who gets into conversations with me, irrespective of their race, religion, creed, or culture, eventually have no problems being honest with their thoughts on it, or just on racial issues in general. Below is a photo, and let me just show you the photo on the screen. I think you can see that. That is a photo that I was talking about, okay? And what I'll do is, again, like I said, it's in a thing. Oh, green screen, go away. Anyhow, below is a photo of Bill Clinton, and I just showed you guys a photo. Before discussing my disgust for this picture, I want everyone to recall an incident when Clinton was running for president. Many remember Clinton's attack on rapper Sister Souljah. He mischaracterized her comments, which out of his mouth made Sister Souljah seem like a vapid racist. Here is a clip, and I put the clip on, where he said what he had to say. Fortunately for Clinton, even the liberal media suffers from the same disease America suffers at large. Sister Souljah had a robust response, which first made it clear she was not some patsy or uneducated rapper. She then went on to contrast her morality to Clinton's, and that was vicious. If you go to this blog and you take a look at the comparison between Sister Souljah and Clinton, she went to her characterization when she was done. If that video, if we were in the age that we were in today, and that video went viral, Clinton would never had been president, based on what Sister Souljah had to say in that interview. The picture above does two things. It sears in the minds of many white people that welfare abuse, or that the majority of people in welfare are black. Ironically, it does the same thing for people of color. Second, it shows a cadre of white men, including a discernible and now convicted pedophile, wards of the pharmaceutical industry, among others. To be clear, most people on welfare are white. And that picture, that picture was an abomination. Anyway, moreover, poverty is much more rampant in rural areas than in urban areas. The constant mischaracterization is one of the components in the formula that got Trump elected. A large percentage of his voters did not realize on whose side they belonged, from Newsweek, it said. In fact, whites are the biggest beneficiaries when it comes to government safety net programs like the temporary assistance for needy families, commonly referred to as welfare. White people without a college degree aged 18 to 64 are the largest class of adults lifted out of poverty by such programs, according to the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. The think tank's 2017 report states that 6.2 million working-age whites are lifted above the poverty line in 2014 compared to 2.8 million blacks, 2.4 million Hispanics. When it comes to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, the initiative forms known as food stamps, the numbers look similar. Just over 40% of SNAP recipients are white, 25.7% are black, 10.3% are Hispanic, 21% are Asian, 2.1% are Asian, 1.2% are Native Americans, according to the Agriculture Department. So that picture was nowhere representative of what's actually occurring in the country, but it gives that false impression, and that was the biggest issue that many of us had. It gives that false impression that the vast majority of people on welfare are these people of color, which is completely and entirely false. Now, even out of office, Bill Clinton showed his ability to use race as a tool. CNN reported the following during the South Carolina primary. And I wrote about this one in my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. And that's my book here, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, which you can get on Amazon. Anyway, I was already a bit perturbed with some of the overtones from former President Clinton's dismissal of Obama's primary victory in South Carolina by equaling it to then Jesse Jackson's victory a few years back. Clinton is a very intelligent man, and I'm sure that even though I believe he does not have a prejudice bone in his body, he was willing to use subliminal racial inflections to taint Obama's victory. Though I support, this was in my book, though I supported Mrs. Clinton, no one could equate Obama's politics with Jackson's. There were many more relevant comparisons. I made my break from Hillary in February, though I was still not sure if Obama could break the racial barrier and win. So I jumped onto the Obama campaign after that incident. Many other incidents illustrate how Bill Clinton, not unlike many other politicians, have attempted to misrepresent people of color for gain. They try to use some actions against people of color with the expectation of winning more white votes than they would otherwise lose from the deception. We can only get around these issues if we can be honest in talking about them. Just like viruses and bacteria exposed to light can render them ineffective, so can exposing this behavior in an honest manner. And I think in exposing the behavior, what we do in exposing the behavior is ensuring that it doesn't continue. One of the reasons why I think things continue the way they are right now is that we don't do that. I think what we do many times is we let things fester, we create that sore, and that sore continues to go on and on again. Now, folks, give me a call, 646-716-5812 if you'd like to add to the discussion. Again, that is 646-716-5812. Seems like we're still having some technical internet problems. If we continue with these problems, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to close us down a little early because we have to fix this for tomorrow's show, which is going to be discussing some issues with the Democratic Party. So bear with that stop and start. I don't know what we can do about it, but we may have to shut the show down early today so that we can take care of that. But before we shut the show down, I have to go ahead and put out my ask, and it goes as follows. Please do remember, folks, that this is a call-in show. Not only a call-in show, but we need your support. We need your support to stay alive. So please go to Patreon, patreon.com/politics done right. Again, that is Patreon, patreon.com/politics done right, and support progressive media. Support us doing the right thing. Again, that is patreon.com/politics done right. Now, what is it in this for you? Well, of course, for those of you, you all know now that I'm writing the new book, How to Make America Utopia, and I've written the first chapter, and as I write more chapters, I put them online for our subscribers, and our subscribers can read the chapters, or subscribers can comment on the chapters. If our subscribers want to add something to the show or to the book, rest assured that if there's something of interest that we put into that book, we will definitely cite you with your permission, of course. And do remember as well that we have a blog group. We have a group. It's called the How to Make America Utopia, which is a group as well. Please check that out. You can check that out if you go to Facebook and just go to look for How to Make America Utopia. You'll get to the group. Become a subscriber, join the group, and then if you have some suggestions that you want to add, we are here for you. Again, please go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right to support progressive media, to support progressive radio. We're still having technical difficulties, so what we're going to do right now is close the program, and in closing the program, we'll go try to figure out what it is that was wrong to make sure that this doesn't happen, or assuming that it's something we have control over, to make sure it doesn't happen tomorrow. What we're going to do right now is go ahead and start rebroadcasting some of this stuff on a dead channel to see if we can debug why, for some reason, we're having transmission problems. Look, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, a short one today. And, got to tell you, I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.